Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome on into another episode of the Top 5 PvP Battles. If you guys want to send in your own clips for the Top 5, you can send them to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. And starting us off today, we have got Meaxy's on a Stamina Sorcerer, and right off the bat, Meaxy's just ripping into the back end of this group, this big blue group just going through the gate, and Meaxy's very aggressive, 3 kills right away, forcing the entire group to turn around and face him, and then he uses that Stamsork speed just to get out of there, get to some safe cover, and then re-engage with whoever's going to follow him here. The Templar knocks him back with the Javelin. Meaxy's jumps on top, just rolling outside of the Dawnbreaker there, and trying to get the Dizzy swings down. Meaxy's almost finding himself dying right in that moment, luckily putting aggression on the Templar there to not eat the Radiant Destruction. And Meaxy's just healing a lot, managing to get back here, pounding the Vigors into the Dark Deals, just keeping up a lot of healing power at a distance, using that streak, or the Ball of Light, sorry, to absorb projectiles as well. And Meaxy's just doing a great job with his terrain here. He's got a lot of pressure on top of him, and he's just trying to set a good combo on somebody here while not taking too much damage from the rest of the blue. And they seem to just kind of be piled up on the other side. Meaxy's goes for a great streak to the back end of the group. The Dawnbreaker comes down. The blue player actually going in stealth, and Meaxy's manages to streak through him, hitting him with that Executioner, and one blue player goes down. And Meaxy's has got a ton of pressure on him here. So much movement with the streak, and I love that Meaxy's is making sure to throw down that streak every few seconds or so because of the amount of projectile absorb that it will give, and a huge Dawnbreaker there, following it up with some Executioners. One player just about going down. I think actually he got one player there, and there's the second one to the Executioner. And Meaxy's movement is so dynamic here. He's changing directions constantly with the streak, and right away jumping on top of the player, attempting to get the res there, punishing him with the Dizzy swing into the Execute. And there we see Meaxy picks up a really nice stun with the off balance on that guy. Hits him with the Dawnbreaker, and there's just a single player left here. And this guy goes into Wolf mode, and we know how tanky Wolf mode is in this patch. And Meaxy's puts a lot of pressure into him, but unfortunately this guy is just too bulky. He doesn't put out much damage at all. And eventually more blue players show up here, and Meaxy's right away, very conscientious, I think, while he was fighting the wolf to keep his resources up, knowing that there would be more blue players coming over the hill there. And Meaxy's goes again for that Dawnbreaker. Oh, so many times this patch, Dawnbreaker's kind of wonky to aim. Unfortunately missing it there, and taking a lot of damage from these guys. And he goes for a streak again just to get a little bit of projectile absorb, a little bit of movement as well. And Meaxy's just trying his best to pick a good target there. There we see a nice off-balance stun. Tries to get the Execute. Unfortunately, didn't get the cancel there. And Meaxy's just taking a lot of pressure from the back end of the group. He sticks out the kill very low on hit points here. And Meaxy's takes a nasty stun there. He does have his defensive ultimate if he needs, but I think he wants to drop another Dawnbreaker here. He's just moving into this group. This guy with the Lightning Staff heavy attacks, he's had enough of that. Goes for the Dawnbreaker, couple Executioners, another blue player down, and that guy just dies from the dot on the Dawnbreaker there. And Meaxy's looks like he's got just 3 players again left here, just holding out this entire fight by himself. Pushing blue basically back from this location, and the werewolf tries to go for the res. Meaxy drops the Dawnbreaker. The Execute comes down. Another blue goes down. This guy just melting to the pressure that Meaxy's can put out. And look at that, more blue coming over the hill. It looks like the wolf managed to get a res on someone as well, and Meaxy's right back at it. Just resetting the buffs here, a little bit lower on stamina, goes for the streak into the Dark Deal, making sure to keep the Vigor up in that Dark Deal, tons of healing power, and then a huge amount of damage with that Donnie. And look at this. The rest of the yellow faction has come to help, but Meaxy definitely would have cleaned the rest of that up. What a fantastic fight. Now moving on to our next fight, we have got zDan, and he is playing some Magicka Dragon Knight, hanging out outside this keep here, and he's just trying to chase a few blue players, and he finds some chasing behind him here, and they jump on top of him. And zDan right away just starts doing work, sets his buffs down, and he's running the chain on the Dragon Knight too, so he's trying to pull a target into his chain, actually singling out the snipers here to try to prevent them from not only dropping all those arrows on him, but he can get some good damage in them too. And there we see A great kite by zDan as he takes the snipes. The enemy player going for the Donnie, and zDan just sidesteps behind him right into the shield ult, and big pressure on top of this enemy Nightblade. He throws down a lot of AoE here too to prevent the guy from entering stealth, and just feeding him the whips. The enemy Nightblade cannot survive, and zDan just taking so much abuse from these guys. The bow ult comes down too. He manages to get the kite back behind the pillar here, and these guys go for the res. It looks like a very fast res there. zDan's got all 4 players left again, and these guys put up a really tough fight for zDan here. They're putting out a lot of pressure, but zDan's playing really smart tactically, just putting out the pressure in his sword and board ult. A huge connection with the dots and the whip there. Everything just kind of coming in. And another player goes down, and zDan just starts focusing on the next guy, dotting him up, pulling him in with the chains, leaping on top of him, and then going for those whips as well. The enemy player trying to heal away using his Necro Scythe. zDan's not going to let him get away with this, just feeding him the whips. He goes down to the continuous pressure. Now he's got just 2 players left to fight. And the first player just kind of setting down some defensive circles there. It looks like he wants to go for that res. zDan just focusing on the archer for one moment. And just like that, he actually managed to get a res up. So that Templar there has got some crazy fast res speed. And it's making zDan really work here as he sticks out another kill on that archer there, following it up with the Dragon Leap. And zDan right away goes for pressure on top of this Templar. I think it's a good call to keep his eye on this Templar because he's rezzing people very fast. And zDan just kind of kiting or just tanking out the archer as best he can, while keeping the pressure on the enemy Templar, making sure to keep his buffs up here. The enemy Templar eventually going down to the damage over time, and of course the whip pressure from zDan. Now it's just this Nightblade left, and he tries to go in stealth. zDan actually popping him there with a little bit of AoE, tries to get the pull on the chain. There we see the pull into the leap, and yeah, this poor Nightblade is way too close to the Magicka Dragon Knight and does not have the shade up, and zDan takes it home. Now, moving on to our next fight, we have got animation canceling, bringing us some more Stamina Templar, and he's chasing down somebody in the sewers here, and this red player ends up leading Annie into a large group of red players. Right away, these guys try to go for the res, and Annie just quickly getting that bash. The Nova coming down, and Annie just staying aggressive here, doesn't want to let them get that res up. The Dragon Knight very committed to the res. There you see Annie actually breaking the stun into the bash, and the game doesn't show that animation very well. And Annie just keeping the pressure up here. He's throwing a lot of stuns down with the javelins. Catches a good stun there. This guy very squishy, taking a lot of damage from the jabs, but we see as soon as he gets up, he's got some mean healing power. So Annie's going to have to get him with a good burst to bring him down. There we see a huge Dawnbreaker into the jabs, just feeding him a lot of damage again. And the power of the light sticking out the kill there. And Annie's got a handful of the red left on top of him, just kind of feeding them all the jabs. He's very low on stamina here. And he's just going to try to rotate in a few heavy attacks with his combos here as best he can. Putting a lot of pressure into this wolf. He wants to get this kill. The enemy wolf not going for the heal in time. Annie finishing him off there with the jabs. And a big Dawnbreaker to bring another red player down. And it looks like just 2 red players left. Just like that, Annie just wiping the group. And he starts putting the jab pressure into this first player here. This guy has a ton of hit points though. But the sweeper did decide to walk around the corner and involve himself in this fight. Annie's just keeping the pressure on these tanky guys here. And there you see the enemy player is caught holding block inside of the sweeper's spin. The other enemy player just gets chewed up by it. And Annie takes the fight home just like that. Now for our next fight, we have got Explanicide on the Magicka Sorcerer. And a big sorry, I've been saying it wrong this whole time. But Explanicide is taking a fight here with his fellow player, and they've got a lot of yellow players around them, and you can see the fight's going pretty well, honestly. They're putting a lot of damage into these yellow, couple players going down right there. Explanicide shifting to a target in the back here, and just like that, his friendly player has gone down. Oh no, it always happens, and Explanicide is now alone to fight all of these yellow by himself, and they're attempting to get the bodies that they have just killed up there too. And Explanicide goes for a kite back behind this big rock here. Really good call, because a few of the yellow players actually just kind of getting stuck in the terrain, and Explanicide able to turn around with some offensive pressure on this player whose hit points are a little lower, and Explanicide just blasting him from 70% hit points to 0 there. And then he gets pulled by the Dragon Knight chain, commits to the movement, and just streaks again in that direction. Huge damage on the player in the back. He had no idea that was coming. And another one goes down. This yellow player there just looks like he's standing there AFK. Explanicide just quickly going to kill him. And then these guys attempting to go for the res. Explanicide so quick with his streak here. The enemy player throwing down the Colossus. A great roll there. He's pulled by the Dragonite chains, right away reacting with the streak in the same direction. I love how he's doing that. It's such a great instinctual move because it forces the yellow players to turn around so much, and Explanicide able to keep up good pressure on the group. There's one body that they haven't even been able to res, but look at the amount of damage they're putting out. Explanicide finds himself in a really dangerous spot there, goes for the precognition, teleporting back behind the group. Lots of streaks, trying to get behind the rocks here. Explanicide again in a really difficult spot. Hit points super low there, and he just makes it around the corner, putting the shields up, healing away a little bit here, resummoning the pets. Oh my gosh, the yellow players looks like they've been able to pick up almost all of the dead bodies, and Explanicide just putting some pressure in, actually managing, I think, to get the kill on that guy. Did he go down? No, but really close. And Explanicide just going to try again to stick this kill out on the player in the back. So much power on the Magsork, and this is such a great fight for him here. He's using his movement so well and just picking targets that don't expect to get hit with that kind of burst at a distance. And Explanicide again just moving to safety, resetting himself, resetting the pet that is constantly getting killed by these guys. And he's going to do his best to try to take another player down. Actually attempting to go for the res here, but one of the players has got the interrupt poison arrow, so it's not going to work. And Explanicide again resummoning the pet, taking more pressure from these guys. And he just gets back behind the rock here. He needs to hit these guys. I don't think he's going to get this res. He has to be aggressive. And these yellow players are caught off guard again. Explanicide managing to get a little bit of a moment to go for some offensive pressure, finishing him off with the execute there. Really good timing. And he manages to get the streaks back in behind the tree here and attempting the res again. The audacity of it. The Nightblade says no. Explanicide forced to go for some offensive pressure, but catching the Nightblade with a nasty curse combo there. He just dodged that crystal frags. Explanicide looks like he wants to finish the combo on this guy. And there we see the light attack poke. He's trying to get the finish with the full combo. The enemy Nightblade just hanging on. And Explanicide has a lot of resource here. He is staying very aggressive on top of this yellow group. They've lost a lot of players already. And just like that, he brings another one down. 3 yellow players left to fight. Explanicide just putting the work into his next target here, hitting him with the curse, and he actually just shifts to another target. This guy was very squishy. He goes down right away to the curse combo, and Explanicide pops the next player with the curse into the frags, the execute, and just the last guy left here, Explanicide, feeding him the ultimates out of the overload as well. So much damage coming out. This guy just trying his best to tank it out and heal it, but it doesn't look like it's enough. Explanicide just putting out a ton of pressure on this guy, feeding him constant curses, giving him more overloads when he can, and just giving him the frags too. This Necromancer actually has a really strong block, and he finally goes down, and Explanicide is gonna res his friend. And now for our final fight, we have got Shadymm ESO bringing us some Stamina Dragon Knight. He's hanging out inside a keep here with a lot of blue players trying to put the pressure on, but Shady going into his corrosive armor ultimate, turning and burning that blue player right away, and then putting the pressure on the guys downstairs. The blue player's right away going for that res though, and it doesn't look like Shady's going to be able to stop that. That was a fast res right behind him, and Shady just keeping the pressure up on his target, managing to finish him with a nice executioner cancel there. And Shady's in the sword and board defensive ultimate, and Shady taking a lot of pressure, decides to head up the staircase, just kind of throwing those heavy attacks around the blue players, picking up their dead bodies. I don't think Shady wants to stay down there, though. There's a lot of blue players pouring in. More players pouring in from the sides. Players coming from the top as well. Shady's completely surrounded here. And he manages to get a good block on that meteor right away into the sword and board ult. Goes for the heavy attack to get a bit of stand back, but doesn't stick out anything offensively. I think that was a good call. There's a lot of blue players chasing him around this corner here, and Shady goes for that classic kite up the staircase and off the side the way he came, forcing the turnaround from the blue players and just buying him a little bit more LOS from these guys as he just resets the buffs. And he manages to catch this guy going up the staircase, gets behind him, dotting him up. There we see a interesting stun. I'm not quite sure what Shady just used to toss him in the air like that. I think he just hit him with the shield bash, and it was a bit of a positional desync. Nonetheless, Shady sticking out that kill and they are hot on his tail for it. Oh my gosh, he's taking so much pressure here, literally just casting heavy attacks with great LOS and movement to keep himself alive. And Shady gets into that Sword and Board ultimate just in time, eats the stun through, I think, a fossilized there still, but he manages to kite back down through the staircase into the other tower. And I think he's just going to retreat into the emptier tower on the side here. Shady's very low on resource, but he's playing this smart. He's got his ultimate coming up. He's not overextending if he doesn't need to. And one blue player comes following around the corner. Shady just feeding him that heavy attack. Again, being very patient, not committing to anything too aggressive because he wants to see where all these blue have gone. It looks like just 6 or 7 blue left on top of him. He's taking a lot of pressure though. The meteor comes down. He gets into the Sword and Board ult, rolls out of the snare there, and he catches this guy up top alone, hits him with that stun, tries to dot him up, and Shady decides not to try to stick the kill out here. I think, again, that's a really good call as all of the blue players have converged on his location. He gets hit by an enemy Dragonite's Leap there, responding by going into his Sword and Board ult, and again, feeding these guys heavy attacks, trying to get an opening on these guys as they just feed him meteors and leaps as well. And Shady managing to get a great kite there, blocking those attacks. And I love his movement here. He's hopping around a lot, but he's doing a great job just changing directions and cutting good angles for these blue players. And he gets himself these opportunities where he just has 2 blue players on top of him. And he wasn't able, unfortunately, again, to stick out anything too offensive there. But Shady goes into the Sword and Board ult, just putting a little bit of pressure. The big AoE dot debuff down as well. It looks like the blue player's actually not healing up fully out of the attacks that Shady has put on them here. He's got a lot of players ticking for dots, so he drops downstairs here. He's going to see who follows him. This guy, he gets a good stun on him with the Sword and Board ult. There's just the fully charged heavy attack. Shady knows he needs that stamina, and he just dots that player up. That guy very tanky, so Shady's not going to stick on top of him. Right away, switching to the next target, hits him with that nasty stun off the Sword and Board, and Shady taking a lot of pressure from these guys. Again, goes for the kite up the stairs. He's got great clearance on the group there. A lot of players very low health, and Shady's just trying to get that opportunity to start putting bodies on the ground. The enemy Nova comes down, and here we go. He's caught a player low on hit points, dots him up right away into the Executioner. 1 blue player on the ground. And Shady's just going for a few more heavy attacks. These guys are throwing a lot of AoE pressure down. Shady goes into his Sword and Board ultimate and then very aggressive on the next target here, hitting him with that stun right away into the Execute. And then he moves on to the next guy. This guy trying to retreat off the edge. Another blue player just kind of gap closing on top of the platform there onto Shady. And Shady turns back towards the bodies here. Look at that. They've either released or they were rezzed so quickly. But this one player here, very low on hit points. Shady just kind of kiting it out. He's pretty low on resource himself, but he gets into that Sword and Board ultimate and being very aggressive, bringing a blue player down in there. And I like how he's using the Sword and Board ult to just kind of shield himself from a lot of the pressure coming out so he can focus on one target and just put the damage in. Now he's got just 2 blue players at the bottom. He's done a great job till this point. The blue group is very split up. And Shady just whittling down this guy here. He actually had quite a bit of bulk, but Shady putting a lot of pressure over time into him there, finally bringing him down. And a few more blue players coming in to help the fight here. Shady just keeping the dots down, using his movement as well to kite around as much damage as he can. And he just dots up this guy, attempting to go for the res. The enemy player up top there just throwing heals down on top of his friendly players. Shady switching to the enemy Templar now, dotting him up, hits him with that stun, and here are the Executioners, and he brings the Templar down. The other players did manage to get the res off, but I think that was totally fine. Shady just wanted to stick that kill out, and now he's got his ultimate up again. He goes into the corrosive armor, and he starts dotting up this blue player. This guy very tanky, though. Again, Shady going for that target shift. Onto the 5-star player. The Sorcerer's ultimate comes down, though. Shady just trying, I think, not to expose himself to the outside there because he doesn't know how many blue players are waiting out there. And he just keeps going for those heavy attacks. Very conscientious to weave those heavy attacks in on his build here to keep that resource sustain up. And he catches this enemy Templar with a really good dot up. A nice stun there. The Executioner and the enemy Templar unable to respond in time. And it looks like the last player manages to escape Shady's wrath just because he's so tanky. And for our bonus clip today, we have got Alfonso Santos on the Magicka Necromancer, bringing us some insane group gameplay against this massive 80 Zerg. So I hope that you guys enjoy this clip as we say our goodbyes. A massive thank you and shout out to everybody who was featured in today's episode. Be sure to check out these fine ESO content creators in the description down below. If you guys want to send in your own clips for the top 5, you can send them to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. Check out my website, KristoferESO.com, for written guides to all of my builds and a hub for all of my ESO content. Of course, you can check me out on Twitch for live gameplay and give me a follow on Twitter if you guys want to keep up to date with what's going on in my life. We are sponsored by What the Fast. They're a VPN for gamers, and they can give you better ping to your favorite games. They're free to try for the first month, no credit card to sign up, link down below in the description. And then last but certainly not least, a huge thank you and a massive shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this job, so thank you everyone for supporting. Thank you guys so much just for tuning in and watching today. As always, I hope you guys all enjoyed. I hope to see you guys next time, and have a great night, everybody.